Don't get me wrong, the new Willy Wonka movie looks fine, but there's no way it's going to be as dark as the original book.
The mother of the Uvalde school shooter was arrested last year after making death threats herself.
This is the scary truth about Mars. So, everybody knows humans are trying to get people to live on Mars. Especially Elon Musk. But none of these people ever tell you this scary truth about the red planet Mars.
I'm back, ChickfilA, and today we're going to take a look at these TikTok videos. If you guys like this video, let's get me to 1,000 likes. Make sure to watch to the end. This video gets crazy. If you guys like the chain, check the link down in the description.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your life. A different version of you exists in the minds of everyone who knows you. Nighttime is the natural state of the universe. Daytime is only caused by a nearby radiating ball of flame. The word mortgage comes from a French term that means death pledge, or a contract that only expires upon death. Over 50% of commercial pilots have all admitted to falling asleep while flying a plane. The sun may have exploded, and we wouldn't know it for at least 8 minutes. Hit the plus sign if these disturbed you.
Here are some things that are completely normal during the day, but really creepy at night. Digging holes in your backyard. I mean, it's your backyard and you're entitled to do whatever you want to it, but if I see you digging some holes in the middle of the night, I'm gonna be really concerned. Bonus creepy points if you have some trash bags next to you too. I feel bad for people who work graveyard shifts or are night owls, because it makes it difficult to do any gardening or landscaping without looking pretty creepy. They say a child's laughter is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world, but not if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Scary movies have absolutely ruined the sound of a child laughing for me, because most instances, I'm gonna assume the worst. And for some reason, little girls laughing are even more scary. Like, imagine being in the woods camping and you hear some little girl laughing in the distance. My brain isn't gonna think, oh cool, some family must be camping near us. No, I'm gonna think that I'm gonna get murdered or possessed by some demon. Someone knocking on your door during the day, it's annoying. Who the f is showing up at my house unannounced? It must be a salesman or worse, Mormons. That same knock at 3 in the morning? No, I'm getting murdered for sure. I'm on the 2nd floor and my only way out is to jump out the window, so I'm done for.
People you never knew existed. This is Josephine Myrtle, and she was born with 4 legs and 2 sets of genitals. Despite having these conditions, she got married and had 5 kids. These are the only 2 men in the world who can speak the Ayapaneco language in Mexico, but they don't talk to each other because they have beef. Doctors were left stunned when this man came into the hospital complaining about chest pain. After a couple of scans, they realized he had 2 hearts. Jill Price has perfect memory of her life, and if you ask her what she ate for breakfast 20 years ago, she would get it right.
Honestly, that's good for her. Most people can't even remember what they ate for breakfast this morning. What did you eat for breakfast this morning? Put it down in the comments if you remember.
What could be more terrifying than the thought of your own body setting itself on fire? For hundreds of years, this phenomenon has been the subject of scientific scrutiny as well as deep mystery: spontaneous human combustion. This is when the human body appears to ignite internally, a fire starting from within before the entire body becomes engulfed. This actually dates all the way back to the 1600s, and since then there have only ever been about 200 cases reported worldwide. In 1984, a scientific team was assembled led by Joe Nickell to investigate a number of these cases dating back to the 1800s. One of the unusual threads that was found between all of these cases was that with every body investigated, there seemed to be some trace of alcohol in the system. This gave way to the wick theory, suggesting that if alcohol was in the system and there was some kind of a chemical change that could ignite a fire, body fat could be used as an accelerant, making the mystery of this phenomenon one you should think about next time you're drinking.
The mother of the Uvalde school shooter was arrested last year after making death threats herself. And this seems to be an alarming pattern of behavior in this family. So if you don't remember, in 2022, this man went into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and opened fire, killing 21 people altogether, 19 young children and 2 teachers. This was one of the most horrific events to ever really happen here in the United States. It sent shockwaves around the world. And those 21 students and teachers that lost their lives that day will never be forgotten. But in January of 2023, Salvador Ramos, the shooter's mother, Adriana Reyes, spent 2 nights in jail for threatening to murder her disabled partner that she lived with. Apparently, the man that she was dating stated that he felt terrified and felt like she could kill him at any second, and that's why he called the police to report her. Now, initially she tried to claim that this never happened, but somebody who was a witness to these threats, who actually heard her screaming these death threats, corroborated the story with the police, and she was arrested. And if you'll remember, Salvador Ramos's cousin actually threatened to do the same thing as his cousin, aka he threatened to commit another shooting last year as well. And needless to say, I think that there's just something wrong here. This week on our podcast, my wife Courtney and I are starting our series about the Uvalde school shooting. Our podcast is called Murder in America, and we're going through everything that led up to this, the police failures, the massacre itself, and obviously everything that happened afterward.
I remember hearing about that a while back. That was a horrible event. That's crazy that his mom would try to do that to someone that's literally disabled. Like, that makes you kind of look at someone like, yo, like, are you good?
Is this a coincidence? Tree stump. Fingerprints. Tree branch. Human lungs. Leaf veins. Human veins. Tree of life. Human placenta. Grass. Human hair. Tree roots. Human veins. River network. Human veins. Tree roots. Human nervous system. Thorn plant. Human spine.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that everything in the universe is connected. That's what that basically showed me, because there's way too many connections and coincidences for it, in my opinion, to just be, oh, it's just a coincidence. Like, I think it was actually something connected.
You were today years old when you found these out. If you want to heat up some food at night, microwaves have a silent mode. To activate the silent mode, all you have to do is hold down the 1 button. So you're driving a car, you need gas, but you don't know which side the tank is on. If you look on the dashboard, there's an arrow next to the gas tank indicating which side the gas tank is on. Surprisingly, the drawer under the oven isn't used to hold pots and pans. It's made to keep your food warm until you're ready to eat. Airplane windows actually have little holes in them to prevent the windows from fogging. These candies are called lifesavers because if a child accidentally chokes someone, they will still be able to breathe because of the hole in the middle.
Hey, that's dope. I pretty much knew all of that except for the lifesavers and the microwave one. Thinking to myself, like, yo, why don't microwave companies that actually give you, or that you actually buy the microwaves from, why don't they just put that on the thing? Maybe they do, and I just don't read it. Have you guys ever bought a microwave and seen that it says that the one is the night mode or whatever? Because I never knew that.
Whatever you do, don't freak out, but this bug lives on your face. Demoic Smites dig face first inside your pores. But don't freak out, they're harmless. They just eat your grease and dead skin on your face. But there is one thing you should be worried about. Don't cry, but they do wake up in the middle of the night to mate on your face. Yeah, now you know. But they're harmless. And they live on all of you. Live with it. Like if you want a part 2 of things you don't know that live on your body.
This is what we know about the awful case of 16-year-old Shelby Benny. Shelby was a cheerleader at Bixby High School, and on Thursday night, her family was on their way home with her dad behind the wheel. He had reportedly been drinking, and according to her mom, they were also having a heated argument up in the front seats. At 70 miles per hour, he tried to pass another vehicle in a no-passing zone, and their SUV flipped. As we know, Shelby was tragically ejected from her family's vehicle on impact. A bystander immediately ran over to the scene, but there aren't even words for what happened next. Shelby's father was reportedly standing disoriented just outside of the crashed car, and when asked if anyone was hurt, he ran away. He left his 16-year-old daughter there to die on the pavement. Now, according to police, they were able to determine that Elliot had fled to a local family-owned business, and it was there that he got access to another car. They were able to electronically track that vehicle, and within 12 hours, they found him behind the wheel in a town about an hour away. It was obviously too late to give him a DUI test, but he was taken into custody. With Elliot's arrest, we know that while he tried to tell police he skidded on an oil spot, he's also admitted to taking a few swigs of the vodka bottle that was found in the front seat. Today, Elliot is charged with first-degree manslaughter, but he has already posted his $100,000 bail. And as for Shelby's mom and her siblings, again, unfortunately, we don't know how they're doing now. Shelby is described as a bright light with a heart of gold and the best teammate you could ask for. If you would like to support her family during this time, the link will be in my bio.
My brain is still caught up on the fact that she says they electronically tracked his other car. How do you electronically track another car? How do they even connect that? That's so crazy. There's so much technology that the government and the military has that we have no access to yet. I'm pretty sure they said the military is actually 10 years ahead of us, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, the hyena's a girl. So many may know, female hyenas have a fake meat hose that looks almost identical to the real thing. And for those that don't, actually, that's the lead. They have a pseudo phallus that they give birth from, and yes, it's as traumatizing as you think, and yes, the very process of birth can end up doing the exact opposite for everyone involved. But low-key, having a built-in flesh strap might explain why hyenas are exactly the way they are. So for most animals, life pretty much comes down to the 3 F's: food, fights, and... So a lot of times when male animals run a fade, it's for the goal of female validation. But hyenas having a female 5th leg means they have a natural crotch block. It's basically anti-mating hardware that means the no pants dance can only happen if she allows it. So unlike things like lions or bears, there's really no reason for male hyenas to want smoke with each other when getting it in is already RNG. Pun intended. And it's believed having coitus completely out of their control is why male hyenas are way less aggressive and even have less testosterone than the females. Meanwhile, the females are more on go than a green light. And why hyena sisters are way more likely to put each other on a t-shirt. And with them being pack animals with a whole social ladder, the Walking Comedy Club had to become more aggressive just to give their cubs a chance at life. Matter of fact, that's probably why they have more testosterone. So yeah, moral of this video. Lion King did hyenas every type of dirty, but they got it right when they had Shenzi giving orders. And now you know why.
Horses are much bigger than people, so naturally they just have a lot more blood than we do. So whenever horses get nosebleeds, it ends up looking like a whole crime scene. So one of the only reasons we know how many people died in the Titanic are the shoes that are laying on the ocean floor. Some are pretty cool, others are kind of depressing. And the reason we count the shoes instead of, bones is because when the Titanic hit the floor, all the corpses kind of just scattered and the fish ate the corpses, but the fish couldn't eat the shoes. If you ever decide to go climb Mount Everest, I hope that you remember that the crevices in the ice are V-shaped, which means if you were to ever accidentally fall down one, you more than likely wouldn't die instantly. Your body heat would melt the ice around you, causing you to slip further and further down until your chest couldn't expand enough to breathe. So make sure you bring a friend just as crazy as you to help get you out.
Nah, those were some terrifying facts, I'm not gonna lie. Imagine getting stuck down a...
Ellen Greenberg, pictured behind me, had over 20 stab wounds, but they classified it as suicide. Let's talk about why that is not the case. On January 26, 2011, there was a blizzard happening in Philadelphia. She worked there and wanted to go home, so she left her workplace. At 6:40 p.m. that same day, she was stabbed 20 times. 10 of those times were in the back of her neck and in her back. She also had 11 bruises on her right arm, her legs, and her abdomen. Now, despite these findings that the wounds were on her back and she had bruises all over her, the Philadelphia police classified this as a suicide. Now, the Philadelphia police and the homicide investigators said this was a suspicious case, and then they closed it and ruled it a suicide. So, in my opinion, I think a cover-up is going on here. Maybe someone powerful decided to pull a hit on her, or maybe one of the investigators or the Philadelphia police themselves were in on this. There's just no way this is a suicide. 20 stab wounds with 10 to the back of your neck and back, there's no possible way. And the bruising, like, come on, obviously there was a struggle, obviously there was some blunt force trauma. Ellen Greenberg's case needs to be reopened and reevaluated. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
That actually makes me kind of curious, because it's like that, it's physically impossible for someone to really, like, just one alone, I mean, unless you're under some heavy drugs, just one alone should make you just drop the knife and be like, nah, I'm not doing that. Didn't he say like 12? Like, what? That's a lot, dude.
The murder of McKinley ChickfilA Marie has to be my favorite case of all time. Like, I actually get butterflies in my stomach every time I revisit this case. I'm just so fascinated by the killer. He was so dedicated. He was gorgeous, super, super dreamy. Like, if he wasn't behind bars, I would probably be with him. And just how dedicated he was to chopping her into bits and pieces. I mean, he really had no remorse, and we almost have to appreciate that. Like, the fact that he carried this chainsaw around for miles and miles, and after chopping her up, it just wasn't enough that he decided to also set on fire. I'm like, there's something hot about that. Siri, play This Girl Is on Fire. We can make jokes now, guys. It's been a long time. The best part about this is that this killer had no remorse. During the court hearing, he actually sat and looked her family members dead in the eyes. Dead, get it, guys? And he actually just laughed the entire time. And you know what? I can appreciate a man who doubles down. Also, disclaimer before people get their panties in a twist, I am being super, super respectful of the family. I'm only sharing things that I've seen already on the internet, so I'm not making things up. These are just facts, and I just wanted to share that with you guys.
I agree with her. They really do, honestly, are always like that. They're just like, you know, and then, like, it's crazy. Like, come on.
Here are some facts that you were never taught that could legitimately save your life one day. So listen the fuck up. If there is a random smell of fish in your house, when you haven't had fish, obviously, how do I put this? Get the fuck out! Because this is most likely a sign of an electrical fire. If someone you know is having a heart attack and you need to give them aspirin, make sure they chew it before they swallow it, because it makes it work faster. If you are outside or high up or whatever, and you not only hear a crunchy crickling noise in the sky, also your hair starts to randomly stand up like it's static, you need to run. Because you, my friend, are about to get struck by lightning. If you are in the pool and the pool water starts tasting metallic, first piece of advice, stop drinking pool water. Second, get the fuck out, because there's most likely an electrical short somewhere in the water. Finally, baths are the best place to hide during a tornado. So grab your rubber ducky and wait it out. Let's make a deal. If you didn't know any of these, you have to share it, and all with me now. Elon!
This is the scary truth about Mars. So everybody knows humans are trying to get people to live on Mars, especially Elon Musk. But none of these people ever tell you the scary truth about the red planet Mars. Mars is actually famous for its dust storms, and they have the largest sandstorms in the entire solar system. These storms can last for months, and these storms just don't stick to one area. These storms actually engulf the entire planet of Mars, and the winds can reach up to 60 miles per hour. These sandstorms can also block the sun, which would just start a domino effect of problems. So, if us humans actually make it to Mars, one of these storms can just kill us all and just ruin all the years of hard work to get there.
I feel like a dust storm would be a big obstacle for us if we do end up going to Mars, because we have dust storms here. Remember when we had the Dust Bowl? Yo, we did not know what the hell to do. It was crazy over there. So imagine on Mars where the whole planet is just straight dust.
This is the dirtiest man in the world. Amal Haji is in his 80s and he hasn't bathed for over 60 years. He leads a nomadic lifestyle in Iran, and his favorite food is rotten porcupine, and he smokes animal feces out of a pipe. He believes that cleanliness will bring him sickness, and he says the thought of taking a bath after all this time makes him angry.
I mean, hopefully there's a science behind his madness, because I could see it as like, oh, I'm doing this so I build my immune system stronger to get used to all this. But then it's like, if you're never going to clean yourself again, then what's the point of even building your immune system up? I don't know. Maybe I'm the mad scientist.
Now I know we all love the thought of little old E.T. coming to visit Earth, making his entrance like, hello. But maybe that isn't such a good idea for, you know, fucking humanity. Actually, a lot of scientists hope that the universe is completely empty. We're so lonely. The theoretical Great Filter is fucking terrifying. The scientists have calculated that there should be at least 20 civilizations in our galaxy alone. So, E.T., where the fuck are you? Come home to Daddy. Or a more terrifying question, what happened to them? That is what scientists are asking. The Great Filter. The belief that somewhere along life's trajectory, life suddenly goes, you know what, nah, fuck you all. Completely wiping it out before it becomes too intelligent. An inevitable, unavoidable phenomenon. It's different to every civilization. It could be disease. We have enough for fucking that. Nuclear power, AI, no, wait, no, too soon. Or one of these fucking things. Now there's two options. One, we're already ahead of the Great Filter. We survived or did the undoable, making us very rare. Or we're behind it, still yet to face our challenge that we most likely won't survive. And we won't see it coming. Elon!
Daisy, give me your answer too. I'm angry.
Creepiest things kids have ever said. A man's mother passed away in a car accident when he was 6 years old. When his 2-year-old daughter saw a picture of her grandmother for the first time, she laughed. He asked her, "What's so funny?" She looked at him and said, "That's my special friend who sings to me." A man's 3-year-old daughter stood next to her newborn brother and looked at him for a while. She turned back to her dad and said, "Daddy, it's a monster. We should bury it." A woman and her 4-year-old son were out in public when all of a sudden he starts rubbing on her belly and talking to it. She asked what he was doing and he said, "I'm talking to the baby." She informed him politely that she was not pregnant and then he said, "There is a baby in your belly. I just saw it crawl across the floor and climb up into you." A woman's 5-year-old asked when he was going to be 23 years old. She told him in 18 years. He replied, "Well, I hope I don't die again because that's how old I was the last time I went to heaven." Follow for more of the...
Yo, imagine that lady was just super obese. Oh my gosh, that would be so disrespectful. He's like, "Yo, you're so fat. I thought you were pregnant."
This is real footage that was accidentally captured by a group of scientists that were looking for an old library. They found an ancient cult that had been around for thousands of years, using teeth as their form of currency. This elusive cult has rarely ever been captured on camera. You see, this cult wears masks to hide their identity, as well as hooded cloaks that are either red or black, and worship a god called Winfred Stitch. And that's why this cult is called the Stitch Veneration. They can often be found at music concerts, and only one musician called Covey is known to be a Stitcher, with the Stitch symbol tattooed on his hand, and fans wear masks to all of the shows.
I want to go ahead and I want to discuss this Instagram story and what makes this diabolically creepy. So I'm not going to give the name, I blocked everything out because clearly they want to remain anonymous. Context is that somebody clearly broke into their old school. I don't know if it was their middle school, high school, whatever it was. And they posted this to their story, but pretty soon after, people started commenting about what they see in the background. Zoom in just a little bit, you would see that this person was not alone in that classroom. But before we take a deeper look at that photo, a huge thank you to Spyfly for bringing you this story. If you want to look up something about somebody, you go to Spyfly. How to become this one-stop shop where you can do background reports, you can look at arrest records, you can even do reverse phone lookup. Spyfly.com is going to be the place to do it. You can check the link in my bio for more details. So back to this photo. I don't know if you can see this, but there is definitely somebody crouching in the background of this classroom. And if you still doubt me, I zoomed in and enhanced the picture for you.
This is John List, and in 1971, he murdered his entire immediate family before escaping and starting a completely new life that he lived for more than 17 years before he was eventually caught. This is a wild story. I covered it on the latest episode of my podcast, but here's an overview. In 1951, John List married Helen Taylor, and together they had 3 children, Patricia, John Frederick, and Frederick. List had served in the Army and was an accountant with a successful career working as a comptroller for a bank in Jersey City, New Jersey. The family lived in a 19-room mansion in Westfield, New Jersey called Breeze Knoll, and the 5 of them, along with John's mother Alma, who was also living with them, were swimming in space there. The family seemed to have a happy life here. It seemed like John was successful, and they weren't super social, but everything seemed fine. The kids were popular and hardworking, and nobody knew anything bad about the family. Behind closed doors, things were not as they seemed. Helen was an alcoholic and was extremely ill from contracting syphilis from her first husband. And John List had lost his job at the bank. But instead of telling his family, he basically went to work every day pretending that he was going to his job and coming home after work hours. And he started skimming money off of his mother's bank account to help pay the mortgage. But then on November 9th, 1971, John List would do the unthinkable. That morning, he dropped the kids off at school and returned home. And when he got home, he took out one of his guns, approached his wife of almost 20 years, and shot her in the back of the head. He then went up to the attic apartment where his 84-year-old mother lived and shot her as well. When 16-year-old Patricia and 13-year-old Frederick arrived home from school, List attacked them from behind, shooting them each in the back of the head. List then made himself some lunch. He went into the bank and closed both him and his mother's accounts, and then he went to Westfield High School where he watched his middle son, John Frederick, play a soccer game. After the game, he drove 15-year-old John Frederick home. And when they got home, he attacked. John Frederick tried to fight back, but unfortunately he ended up succumbing to multiple gunshot wounds. List then placed the bodies of Helen, Patricia, John Frederick, and Frederick on top of sleeping bags in the mansion's ballroom. He left Alma up in the attic apartment because she was too heavy to drag down. He then wrote a letter to his pastor confessing what he had done, and he wrote letters to the kids' school saying that they would be gone visiting a sick relative for a few weeks so nobody would suspect them missing. Then he walked around the house and removed every single photo of himself from all of the photo albums. Finally, he started piping religious music throughout the home, and then he left. By the time the bodies were discovered a month later, John List was long gone. And while he was the immediate main suspect in the murders, police didn't have a lot to go on, and they were unable to circulate a recent photo of him because he had removed every single photo of himself from inside the house. The family's car was found at JFK Airport, but John List went undetected for almost 18 years. Go to part 2.
What? How long ago was that? That was definitely a while back, because I'm like, nowadays they'll find you off anything. We were just talking about that one person that got caught up from just like getting tracked. He's in a complete different car, but somehow they just still tracked him. How?
I have a ChickfilA story time. In case you don't know what that is, it is a beast that lives deep in the woods in Honduras. He will come out late at night looking for his next victim, which is usually a female, that he will then bring back to his cave and force her to become his wife. This story was submitted by Marie. I went ahead and tagged her down below. When Marie's mom was about 10 years old, she was living in Honduras. There was this pretty woman from that same town that was up late drying some clothes right outside of her house, when out of nowhere a ChickfilA came and abducted her. Neighbors heard her cries but they didn't think anything of it up until the morning when they realized that she was missing. Everyone decided to gather around town and look for this woman. Meanwhile, this woman was actually in this ChickfilA's cave where he was SAing her to the point that she was actually injured. He then laid flowers all around her. He was in love with her. He wanted her to marry him. Some of the townspeople actually heard her cries coming from one of the caves and were able to get to her in time. They ended up rushing her to the hospital and found that she had lost hearing in one of her ears and was covered in bruises. The woman describes to a T exactly what he looked like, even described his backwards feet, his hairiness. She said that he looked half human and half monkey. Years later, the woman ended up surviving for a few years. She did in fact end up passing away due to her injuries. From that day forward, no one ever came out late at night, especially in that town that was located right at the bottom of the mountain where it was more known for him to be around.
Don't get me wrong, the new Willy Wonka movie looks fine, but there's no way it's going to be as dark as the original book. We're talking dark enough to not make any cut of any of the movies. Also, I cover stuff for the darkly curious here, and if that's you, you might like the podcast. So in all the movies, we see the Oompa Loompas as these singing, dancing, unbothered henchmen of Willy Wonka's. But in the book, they are so much darker than that. In the book, Oompa Loompas are pygmies from Africa that Willy Wonka kidnapped and brought to his factory. Look at this passage. Once Willy Wonka realizes that they'll work for beans, he shipped them over here, every man, woman, and child in the Oompa Loompa tribe. It was easy. I smuggled them over in large packing cases with holes in them, and they all got here safely. But the book came out in 1964, and at that point, slavery had been abolished in the UK for almost 160 years. So rightfully so, people were not happy with this portrayal. But this is just a good reminder that Willy Wonka is the villain of these movies. He's a curmudgeon shut-in with Peter Pan syndrome who invites children to his factory to watch them die. And then he acts as if you're the one annoying him. Anyways, this one looks very light and fluffy and not that.
3 stories that will keep you awake tonight.
If you're ever in Texas and find teeth in a field, run. It's 1890 and Claire Crane is burying her daughter, but something wasn't right about her death. It was abrupt and happened so fast with zero reason or why. Fast forward 5 years and Claire is accused of poisoning her husband with candy laced with poison and is put into a mental asylum where she would later escape. Not long after that, kids started coming up missing and teeth started showing up in fields across Texas. While investigating, the cops found candy wrappers with a note written on them: "Come outside for more candy." The candy lady would then kill them and drink their blood and leave their teeth in a field. She noticed it in the corner and real life turned into a horror story. In 2004, there was a young babysitter who had been hired to look after some children for the evening. As the kids were peacefully sleeping upstairs, she decided to pass the time by watching some TV, waiting patiently for the parents to return home. But as she settled into the comfy couch, she noticed something odd in the corner of the room. It was a large, towering clown statue. Despite its stationary position, it gave off an eerie feeling as if it was constantly watching her, its eyes following her every move. Feeling a bit unsettled, she decided to call the children's father, hoping to make light of the situation. And after ensuring him that the kids were fine, she jokingly asked about the creepy clown statue in the living room. The line fell silent, And after what felt like eternity, the father's voice cracked through the silence, revealing that they didn't own a clown statue. Fear flooded the babysitter. She dropped the phone, dashed up the stairs, gathered the kids, and ran outside, her shaking fingers dialing 911. The police arrived swiftly, their stern faces disappearing into the house. And then they emerged with the man, the clown statue, who had been hiding under one of the kids' beds with a sharpened screwdriver. Never say her name 3 times in the mirror or you may experience a vengeful fate. Well, centuries ago in a small village, there lived a beautiful woman named Mary. She was well known in the community for her stunning good looks and charm. However, Mary's happiness was short-lived as she faced a tragic fate. One day, she fell deeply in love with a local man whom she believed was her soulmate, and they planned to marry and live happily ever after. Well, unfortunately, jealousy and envy plagued the village, and there was a woman who desired the man's affection for herself. Consumed by envy and bitterness, this woman spread rumors and lies about Mary, tarnishing her reputation and turning the village against her. Well, in the midst of the turmoil, the villagers grew increasingly hostile towards Mary, and in their anger and rage, they accused her of being a witch and blamed her for all their misfortunes. The villagers then decided to take matters into their own hands and execute Mary, leaving her to a gruesome and brutal death. Well, legend has it that Mary's spirit was unable to find peace in the afterlife. Tormented by the injustice done to her, she vowed to seek revenge on those who wronged her. And over time, the once beautiful Mary transformed into a vengeful and malevolent spirit, her face becoming disfigured and covered in blood. But according to the legend, summoning Bloody Mary through the ritual in front of a mirror is a way to invoke her spirit. Those who dare to perform the ritual may experience eerie occurrences such as seeing her ghostly figure, hearing her chilling screams, or encountering other paranormal phenomena. And that's why they say,
yo, he was just hitting us with stories back to back to back. I was like, what? Screwdriver?
Folks, we got another reptilian shapeshifter caught on live TV. This man's evil. I don't know who he is. He's evil. Want more proof that lizard people or reptilians are real? Check out this video. Link in bio.
It's funny she said that because we've actually seen a video of a guy that has a teeth problem and his teeth look exactly like that. So that could have just be a teeth problem and not really reptilians.
I have an incubus story time. In case you don't know what an incubus is a D word that will SA their victim while they sleep. I just want to pre-warn you guys that there's a lot of trigger warnings in this story. 1 and 2, please be careful with the comments you leave behind, because the last time I covered this subject, TikTok didn't like the comments at all and the video actually got taken down. So the person wishes to remain anonymous. She said I can't use her first real name, but I can't tag her. So let's get to the story. So Nisha lives in Sydney, Australia. About 7 months ago at about 3 a.m. she got woken up. She could feel like someone was touching her back, at which point she became completely paralyzed. This is when the terror began. She was then SA'd by this thing. She couldn't scream for help. Mind you, her roommates were not very far. She couldn't move, she couldn't do anything. She was completely helpless. After some time, she was able to get a whisper out. That's when she started to tell this thing to leave her alone. She literally used all of her strength to get this thing to go away, and it finally did. When she came to, she found herself laying in bed, so she turned the lights on right away and called her boyfriend and told him everything that had happened. At first, she thought that maybe it had just been a horrible nightmare until she went to look and realized that she was covered in bruises.
If you don't want to have nightmares, keep scrolling, because this is the Earth's Scariest Places, part 63. This is Bob Mackey's Music World, a now nightclub in Kentucky with an extremely dark and haunted history. It's been labeled one of the most haunted places in the state of Kentucky, and if you keep watching, I'll tell you why. In the 1940s, it was known as the Latin Quarter, and it was visited frequently by lots of mobsters and crime lords. I'll get back to that, but it's important to know that before it became the French Quarter, it was a slaughterhouse, and in this slaughterhouse, very, very dark things happened. It was rumored that things like satanic rituals, torture, consumption of babies, cannibalism, and murders all happened in the basement of the slaughterhouse. One notable story is that of a woman named Joanna. When it was the French Quarter, she fell in love with a mobster. She ended up becoming pregnant with this child. When he found out, he was enraged and ended up killing and burying her in the basement of the French Quarter. Today, it's a functioning nightclub, but the basement is completely closed off. People have reported so much paranormal activity there, including the ghost of Joanna, screaming, footsteps, and feeling like they're being watched.
He said it was a functioning nightclub. I feel like a lot of weird things go on in nightclubs. I might bug in. And he said they eat what? They eat he said they were eating yeah, we're not even talking about that. But anyways, if you guys like the video, remember to like the video. Let's try to get to 1,000 likes this video. Appreciate y'all. If you like the change, check the link down in the description. Stream is coming soon. Peace out, bro.